I love this app script question, how to reference data on new sheets when those sheets get created. The user said they'll have lots of sheets that are duplicates of each other, like a template that'll have slightly different data but on the same spots. That's going to be key. Right now, they have to create the new sheet, then go into their formulas and adjust all the formulas to account for the new data and the new sheet. How can they avoid that? Let's take a look. Now, unfortunately, the user didn't provide their own sheet, so I went ahead and created a dashboard and a template, and I already have one sheet created to show how this is going to work. Here on my dashboard, I'm summing up all of the points from all of the various sheets. So here's all my names, here's the points, here's the template, and here's one sheet created from that template with some points already put in. Here on the dashboard, we can see this formula that's pulling all of those points in and summing them together. Let's walk through this real quick because this is a really essential part of making this whole thing work. So I have here in column E a list of sheet names. Don't worry, we'll get to that, how that's being created. I have here in column E a list of sheet names that I want my formulas to iterate through, and of course my names in column A. I'm using a map function here over all of column E, and this is simply saying to sum up everything from each sheet is what this part is doing, right? So this is looping through all of the sheet names in column E, and then using the sum if. The range is column A, the criteria, we'll get there, and then the sum range is column B. This name is coming from the outer map. So the outer map is looping through all of the names, calling that list name, and it's performing this map function for each name. So I'm doing a sum if on Vader, a sum if on Sidious, a sum if on Maul, all the way down. And then summing up the totals for each cell as we go. That's how this is working. So it doesn't really work to manually copy the template and rename it because those are not trackable events. I can't tell the script whenever a sheet is renamed, go ahead and do something. There's no listener for that. There's no way to track that event. So instead, what I'm actually going to do is, let me write this onto my script area. First, I'm actually going to ask the user for a new sheet name. Then, duplicate the template, rename the new sheet, and then add the new sheet to column E. Okay, that's the steps I'm going to take. So first, I need to ask the user what new sheet they want, or what they want that new sheet to be named. The script is going to duplicate the template. That's how that's going to work, so that instead of listening or watching for an event, it's just going to make the sheet for us, rename the sheet for us, and then add that new sheet name to the bottom of column E so that it can be processed with all the rest of them. That's what we're going to do. Okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at my script again. And I don't want this my function. We're going to make a new one. Let's call that create new sheet. Perfect. So again, first thing we want is to ask the user for a new sheet name. We're going to do that through a dialog box, a prompt. So to do that, I need the UI, the user interface. That is simply spritesheetapp.getUI. And then we're going to say UI.prompt. We're asking them for something. Lower this down further so we can actually see the box. There we go. And I want to use this one. There. So I can name the box, I can give the prompt, and then set the buttons that I want. I do want all three of those. So my prompt is the whole thing is going to be called create new sheet is the name of the dialog box. I'm going to prompt the user to enter a name for the new sheet. And then the button set I'm going to give is UI.buttonset.OK and cancel. Do I even need the cancel? Honestly, I just need the OK. Great. Now, this by itself will create it, but I can't do anything with this. I need to capture the response. So that's going to be const response equals all of that. Now, whenever the user does something with this prompt box, it'll come into this response. Okay? The response then can be tracked if response.getSelectedButton is the UI button OK, which is basically just saying the user actually clicked OK, they didn't cancel this, right? Then we'll go into everything else. Now, the first thing I want is that sheet name, and that's going to be response.getResponseText. I'm also going to throw in a trim, which it says just removes any leading and trailing white space. So if they accidentally put a space at the end, the space won't be there when it gets to the sheet name. It makes things much more tidy. It's really annoying when you have extra spaces on your sheet name. So we're just going to get rid of that right now. Now, I want to declare my sheet or my spreadsheet at first, and then the template. So we've already asked the user for the new sheet name. Now we're going to duplicate the template. So const temp, let's just call it template, equals sh.getSheetByName, and that's going to be the template sheet, if I can spell. Obviously, you can customize that. If you want it to be called something else, no problem, but I'm just showing the process, so I'm going to use the simplest template. That's it, right? Now, I want to copy that template. So I'm going to call const new sheet equals template.copy2. Copy2 is awesome. It says that it copies the sheet to a given spreadsheet, which can be the same spreadsheet as the source. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to copy to SH, which is above the spreadsheet itself, the source spreadsheet. So it's just duplicating it here. And then we're going to say new sheet dot set name sheet name. Let's just trial it up to here. When I run it, it's going to start, but then it's going to suspend on here because we have a prompt over here that we need to answer. I already have the January one. I'm going to call it Feb for February. And now watch down here, it makes copy of template and then renames it to Feb. So it did exactly what we want it to do so far. Let's go ahead and delete that so it's not sitting in our way. All right, so that was ask the user for a new sheet name. Got it. Duplicate the template. Got it. Rename the new sheet. Got it. Now what we need to do is add the new sheet name to column E of the dashboard. So let me first declare my dashboard. At sh.getSheetByName dashboard. The column E values, I want to get the last row of column E. So to do that, I'm going to get all of the values in column E, flatten it, see how long that is. Flattening it is basically the easiest way to make it a single list. So that's going to be dashboard.getRange. I'm going to say E through E. Get values flat. Now I can check the length. Const last, what do I want to call this? Last E row equals evals. Nope. I'm gonna. It's a funky way you have to do this. So I'm going to take all of those values, filter it for strings, and get the length. This is one I just kind of had to memorize. That just is how it works. The next row is going to be last E row plus 1. So this setup is going to give me the last row with data. Right now that's going to be column 2. I want column 3, so just add 1 to that. All right. So in the end, I'm going to say dashboard.getRange. Row is going to be next row. Column is going to be column 5 for E. Dot set value new sheet, or no, sheet name. All right, let's give this a try from the top. Run. It suspends here. Again, we're going to do February. It duplicates it, renames it, and adds it here to the bottom of sheet names. Let's run it again. Just do something very different. Copies the template, renames the template, adds it here. Now we can see 10, 12, and 9. Let me jump over to Feb and add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just a bunch of numbers. Now if I go to the dashboard, those are properly being added to the final sums. Because by adding the sheet name here to column E, it immediately and automatically incorporates that into the formula doing all of the summation. So the two things that are making this work, one, I'm having the script do the duplication and renaming. Secondly, I have this awesome formula that's actually looping through all of the sheet names, so that instead of having to say SUMIF plus SUMIF plus SUMIF plus, that's tedious and really error prone if those things are getting copied over and over and over. So instead of doing that, I'm just looping over all of the names, performing the same function at every instance, and then adding those all up together. One final thing I can do to make this a little bit nicer is I can have this openable through a custom menu. Let's go ahead and get rid of my steps, and I'm just going to do function on open. Again, I do need to declare the UI because I'm dealing with menus. I'm dealing with the user interface. Now I want to do UI.create menu. Let's call that create sheet. And then here I'm going to add an item, which is create new sheet. Then you reference the name of the function. So that's going to be create new sheet. So what I'm doing here is saying this is what the menu is going to be called. This is what the menu is going, this is the function the menu is going to call. And then at the end, I just need to say to add that item to the UI. Great. Save that. Now, obviously that's an on open, so I'm going to go ahead and refresh this main file. There's my new create sheet. Let's blow this up again. I wish it would save that. Here's my create sheet, create new sheet, and now it'll run it right from there. I don't have to open up the script editor. And still works just like before. There you have it. So a formula to loop through everything, and a script that creates the new named files, the new named sheets, and adds that to my list.